community, where we talk about everything Office 365, enterprise mobility, and Windows 365. So we've been having a different series. We started our workload from identity, then from there we moved to Exchange Online, SharePoint, and today we're starting introduction to OneDrive. So please just stay with us, and you're going to enjoy today's session. Right. So this is me here. My name is Emmanuel Itoje. I'm an IT professional with experience in infrastructure, cloud, services, and productivity, with focus on enabling business technologies to optimize an organization strategy. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, Microsoft 365 Enterprise Administrator, a Teams Voice Engineer Expert, Identity and Access Administrator, Azure Security Engineer, and Azure Solution Architect. So our housekeeping rule remains the same. So this session will be recorded and it's going to be made available for future viewing. So when the recording is available, it's going to be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and the link will be shared for us to actually view the recording for future viewing. Then you have to ensure that your mic is actually on mute when you're not talking. The only time your mic should be on mute is when you're talking. Then if you have any question as the session is going on, just note down your questions. You can even use the Q&A session in the Teams to drop your question, and during the Q&A session, the questions will be well attended to. So we have a Twitter page, NGM365. You can follow us on Twitter page and our YouTube channel where we have all our videos uploaded. The link is there. Then we have feedback forms. So if you have any feedback for any of our training so far, feel free to drop your feedback, and our team is always revealing the feedback to see how we can actually improve our trainings, our meetup, and things that we can do for the community. So today we have a very special guest. He's a friend. He's my boss, and I'm happy to actually introduce to us today our SharePoint and SME consultant, who's going to be our OneDrive trainer today. Oluwadamilola Onabanjo. He's actually a highly skilled SharePoint online specialist with over 6 years experience in designing, developing, and implementing SharePoint-based solutions to meet specific business requirements. He's also a technical business analyst with focus on Microsoft Workspace. So he's a specialist when it comes to SharePoint and OneDrive. Then Oluwadamilola is actually one of the person you can actually meet if you have issue. In the community we call him Olu just for a short. So we're actually happy to have you today. Olu, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Yeah, it's an honor to be part of you guys today. Yeah, I've joined previous sessions, so thank you very much. I believe I have the floor now. We could proceed, right?
Yes, Liz, you have the floor. Go ahead,
All
Liz.
right. Okay. So just like Emmanuel has mentioned, so today we'll be touching base with introduction to OneDrive, and I would be sharing my screen now in a moment. Can we all see my screen, please?
Yes, we can say it. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So just like Emmanuel mentioned earlier, I understand that we've been focusing on the M365 workload. We've talked about Exchange, SharePoint, and now this is OneDrive. So basically, OneDrive is part of the solutions which Microsoft has provided for the M365 workspace. It provides a secure and convenient way for us to store, share, and access files from anywhere. Um, so OneDrive shouldn't be confused with SharePoint. So OneDrive is more like a personal storage for users. However, because it's stand personal storage doesn't mean that the use case is for you to store your personal files like your family pictures or something. No, it's a personal storage for you to use to store your organization works basically, so that it's easily accessible for you from anywhere. So basically, it's also called personal site. So that's another name we call it. You could call it personal site, where your SharePoint is like the shared space, like the shared site, something like that. So you could liken OneDrive to be my drive if you're the kind that are used to Google Workspace. So in Google Workspace, it's called My Drive, and the other drive Google Workspace has is shared drive, which is synonymous to SharePoint. So basically, what we'll be looking at in this presentation today, we'll be looking at the introduction to OneDrive for Business. We identify the key features of OneDrive. We look at the licensing options, and we compare the licensing options, and we also discuss about choosing the right plan, and we conclude the session with that. All right. Okay, so as I was trying to say earlier, so OneDrive for Business is a cloud-based storage solution offered by Microsoft, as we all know, and it's part of the Microsoft 365 suite. So it means
Sorry,
when
hello.
yeah,
Sorry, are you sharing your slide? Because I can't see any
yeah,
slide.
you can see.
No, I
Oh,
can't see any slide. Yeah.
okay. So hold on, let me confirm. What can you say, please?
The teams, like the teams meeting that we're in
Oh,
a
just
teams
the
meeting.
teams.
Yes.
Okay. Let me just reshare. Boom. Thank you for that, please.
You're
Thoughts.
welcome.
Window. Okay, let me do entire screen. All right. I believe we can see now, right?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No
Okay, so
worries.
I'll just take it back again from the outline. So this is the outline for the session. We'll be going through the introduction. We look at the key features. We look at the licensing options. We talk about the features of each licensing options and the determinant of you choosing the right plan for your organization. And we go and move right to the conclusion. All right. So as stated earlier, OneDrive for Business is part of cloud storage solution offered by Microsoft, and it's part of the M365 suite. Now, if you notice, we've been saying OneDrive for Business. That means there is another OneDrive, which is the OneDrive Personal. So that's the one that you get when you sign up for your family subscriptions, or yeah, well, when you use your personal account, like your live account. So there's a OneDrive Personal, which is part of that plan, and this is OneDrive for Business, which is part of the Microsoft Work or School accounts, which is the M365 suite. So basically, it is designed to meet specific business and organization needs. It gives secure, scalable platform for storing and managing files. With OneDrive for Business, you can access your files from anywhere, whether you're in the office, on the go, or working remotely. So accessing OneDrive for Business, you could access on the web. Would get to show us that, or you could sync the files down to your local computer using the OneDrive Sync client. That's an application. Or you could use the mobile app. It has a mobile app as well that you could use on your mobile phone. And all you just need is to sign in, as long as your organization provides access from a security standpoint that these files can be accessed from all these areas, then there's no problem with you signing in on those apps. So also OneDrive for Business OneDrive for Business storage is provisioned per user basis, and it's designed to serve the needs of individual users. So what this means is when you create your users and you've licensed the users with eligible license for OneDrive, it creates a OneDrive site for them. So in the beginning, I mentioned it's also called personal site. So you have yours, I have mine. You don't have access to mine, I don't have access to yours. I can share files with you. We can share files. Probably if there's something I'm working on I want you to see, I can share with you. But you don't have access to mine because, like we said earlier, it's each users have their OneDrive sites provisioned separately. So there's a use case. So the last point is about use case of OneDrive. So storage of data other than an individual personal work files include, so if you anything other than personal work files, if you are using it to store system backups, departmental organization level data, that's not the supported use case for OneDrive. So the only supported use case is for you to store your personal work files, not even your any of your personal files that are not work related, they should go into your OneDrive personal. You don't need the OneDrive for business for this, because when you leave an organization, you don't have access to those files again, because once your once your account is deleted, your OneDrive site is marked for deletion, unless your organization has some measures in place of retention to retain those files or so. So it's strictly for storing your personal work files. If we've seen use cases whereby some organizations are using it for backup because of the robust storage space they get. So they use it for their system backups or departmental backups or organization level backup. Basically, these are not supported use case from Microsoft point of view, or if you're assigning it to a bot, yeah, all these are not supported use cases for OneDrive for business. So this is a brief introduction about that. Now we look at the key features. Now regarding the features of OneDrive for business, storage. First one here is the storage and sync. Now OneDrive for business offers you a very general storage space. Most of the subscriptions gives you 1 terabyte by default. Now, if you compare this with OneDrive Personal gives you an initial of 5 gig. Then you need to start buying more storage space. But when it comes to OneDrive for Business, most subscriptions gives you 1 TB by default. Depending on your subscription, you could increase as an administrator, you could increase for your users or the entire organization up to 5 terabyte. Then after that, also still depending on your subscription, you could get the unlimited OneDrive storage space. Now, when we say unlimited OneDrive storage space, this is what it means. By the time, so if you're on an enterprise subscription, for example, the E3 or the E5, or we'll come to the subscription. I'm just trying to explain here. You could get up to 25 terabytes. So the default is 1 TB. Your administrator increases up to 5 TB. You've exhausted the 5 TB. You can raise a support to Microsoft, and they provision that to your OneDrive site, and you get an increase up to 25 terabyte. Now, if it happens that you do exhaust the 25 terabyte as well, you could also still reach out to Microsoft for them to increase your storage. Now, at this point, your OneDrive URL, the one where you store your files, can no longer be increased. It can't be increased beyond 25 terabytes. But since Microsoft is offering you an unlimited OneDrive storage with your enterprise subscription, what is going to be done is that Microsoft provisions a SharePoint site for that user. So the SharePoint site, the sole purpose is that it's only that user that should have access to that SharePoint site, and the user can continue to store his or her files in that particular SharePoint site. So at that point, the user has an extra 25 terabytes. If it happens that you exhaust the 25 terabytes on the site as well, you could also go back to Microsoft and they provision another site for you, and it goes on and on like that. So that's why for the enterprise subscription, you get to see unlimited storage. That's what the unlimited storage means. Now, when it comes about the sync, so for the sync, you can sync files across multiple devices, ensuring that you always have the latest version at your fingertips. So what that means is you have your Office desktop, whereby you work on your OneDrive files on the web. You could you could use the OneDrive sync client to sync it down to your file explorer. You can access on your mobile phone. At every point in time that you are working, you have access to the updated version of those files because of the sync capability. So even on if your organization allows you to use your work applications on your personal computer, you could as well sync down your files to your personal computer, and wherever you left off at work, whereby you didn't finish some work, you could get home and open your personal laptop, and you can still continue those work which you were unable to conclude. So that's one of the key features of where you get with OneDrive for Business. Also, in terms of collaboration and sharing, It enables seamless collaboration within the organization. So, like I said earlier, even though it's a personal site to you, it doesn't mean you cannot collaborate with your colleagues. You can share files with them. You can you can quarter on a particular file together. It allows quartering also, and you can easily share or you control access permission, just like the way the SharePoint works. You can share with external users as well. It's not limited to sharing within your organization, and you can use it real time with your Microsoft Office applications, your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint, etc. Also, it allows version control and recovery. So what that means is for every file you create and you modify, you edit, it tracks real-time versions of those files. So for every file you're creating, it's creating new versions for them. And it also allows you to recover any of those files in case of anything. Probably there's a malware attack on your system, it's affected your files, all your files are renamed, overwritten. So OneDrive allows you to make a restore to previous version of these files, or it could be in the case of accidental deletion of files on your computer as well. You could as well use the OneDrive restore to recover those files which might be missing from your library. And if it's a case of total data loss whereby you don't even have any option, you've tried to use the OneDrive recovery process and you're unable to get back these files. You've tried so many things, you're not getting them back. You could as well reach out to Microsoft support and they could perform a restore process, which is like a backend restore process for you to get your files back, as long as it's still within the required days of the restore process for that to be done. So basically, these are the key features of OneDrive for Business. So you just need to identify the needs of the organization, and that would guide you on how to decide for which on how to implement the OneDrive solution in your organization. So talking about the licensing options for OneDrive for Business. So um, there are several licensing plans that includes OneDrive for Business as part of the Microsoft 365 suite. Now, like I said earlier, for most of the subscriptions, the default storage space for each user is 1 terabyte. Now, depending on your plan and the number of license you have, you can increase up to 5 terabytes. So let's start from the standalone plans. So for the standalone plans, there's OneDrive Plan 1. OneDrive Plan 1 gives you 1 terabyte default, and you cannot increase beyond 1 terabyte. That's the default. Once it's exhausted, it's exhausted. There's no room for buying additional storage. Let's put that way. So a user cannot exhaust the 1 terabyte, and you decide that okay, I want to buy additional 1 terabyte for this user. That option is not available. So also there's OneDrive Plan 2. OneDrive Plan 2 also has a default storage of 1 terabyte. And if you have a minimum of 5 seat counts, not even licensed users. So if when you purchase the OneDrive Plan 2, if you had purchased a minimum of 5 seat count, then what you can do at that point in time when you can actually go to your admin portal. I would show us that in a moment, and you can increase the storage for your organization or for a particular user from that 1 terabyte to 5 terabytes. You can do that easily as long as that's why this statement, the number of licensed users. So once you meet that condition, the minimum number, which is 5, then you can go ahead and do that. Now, when one of the users exhausts 90% of the 5 terabyte, you can raise a support to Microsoft to have the OneDrive for that user increased up to 25 TB, or you could run this self-diagnostic. There's a self-diagnostic you can run from your admin portal yourself to effect that change. And if it's not working, then you can put in a request. So OneDrive Plan 1 maximum is 1 TB. OneDrive Plan 2 has unlimited storage. I've explained the process for the unlimited storage earlier. Also, we have SharePoint Plan 1. Included in the SharePoint Plan 1 is the OneDrive Plan 1. So SharePoint Plan 1 also has OneDrive Plan 1 included with it, which is 1 TB maximum storage for each user as well. Then also there is SharePoint Plan 2. Likewise, it has the OneDrive Plan 2 included in the storage, and the same condition applies to both. Then if we go to the business subscription, the business subscriptions are the business standard, the business premium, the business basic. Now, all these business subscriptions, they all have the 1 TB storage limit. It cannot be increased further. If the user has exhausted it, like I said earlier, you cannot purchase additional storage. That's the maximum they can get. Then we have the enterprise plans. Now on the enterprise plan, we have E1, E3, E5. Now, if for some of us that are very conversant with Microsoft subscriptions, the E1, E3, E5 is synonymous to the government cloud subscription, which is the G1, G3, G5, and so on, as well as the educational tenant. So for the E1 is 1 TB for the maximum storage space as well. The default, and that's the maximum. Only E3 and E5 offers you the unlimited storage as long as you meet up with the number um of licenses you have in the organization, which is 5. Then you can get the unlimited storage space allocation for your users. So now, so if you look at all these licenses, basically the what's the features which each of them, if you are trying to compare, is the storage space. That's the first thing. Also the access to Office applications. So some of these licenses, you might not get access to desktop clients. So you might need to review what the organization needs are. If they are okay with web access only, then you might stick with applications that give you ordinary web access. And depending on what, and also it's another comparison of these licenses is the security measures. So for some of the subscriptions, you don't have the advanced security measures that makes your organization compliant when you're talking about the FINTRA compliance or the GDPR compliance. So depending on what kind of informations your organization hold and what you guys are trying to store in the OneDrive site, if you want to meet up with all this compliance, then you might need to look into a license that offers you the advanced security measures using the Microsoft Port User Center as well. So with this, I would open my OneDrive a bit before we go any further. Just a moment. Okay, so basically accessing the OneDrive is very simple. So if you go to your Office portal, now, if your user has been licensed, if this is the first time and your user has been licensed, now you might notice you don't get to see the OneDrive part of the listed apps here. If you click on the app launcher, you would see your OneDrive here, which you can easily make a click on. So once you click on it, it takes you to this page, which is called Home. So this Home is just a page where you see all your recently files, that's all your files you've worked on recently, coming from everywhere. This can come from your OneDrive. This is coming from a particular SharePoint site. This is the name of the site. This is another SharePoint site. So basically it's an easy access for you to see those files you work with frequently. So rather than you having to go through the folder level, the folder hierarchy level to locate a particular file, since you worked on this file yesterday, you could easily open it and do whatever you want to do as at this point. Then the next section there says My Files. So basically, this is for you to see all the files you have in your OneDrive. And So from this page, you can see the file name, when the folder name, the file name, whichever one, when it was last modified, we modified it. Now the file size, so basically from this end, what the file size shows you is like the total number of items in the count in the folder. Now, if it's a file, just like this one, then it shows you the size. Then you also have the sharing column, which tells you the status of that file, if it has been shared, if it's private. This means private means it's only for you. You are the only one that have access to this. Shared means you've probably shared with someone, and you have this activity column to tell you who it has been shared with, or probably when it was shared. Also, you could see some other kind of folders, your OneDrive files. I don't know if everyone can see this small blue icon. Can we all see this? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Are we all following? Am I too fast in a way?
Nope.
So,
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ayala. Okay, so basically, um, among your files in here, you have your folders, you have your files for the ones that know your folder, but you could also see a particular type of folder with this blue icon. So basically, this is a shortcut coming from OneDrive. And if you look at the sharing column, it says owner. So it's coming from this particular site. This is the name of the site. So from SharePoint, you could have added, probably there's a particular shared location where all the organization work with, and this is part of your most used folder. You could decide to add that folder as a shortcut to your OneDrive, just so that you can easily get to this folder and work with it faster, rather than you having to go to the SharePoint location trying to look for the folder. So that's the purpose for this. So for those kind of folder, you can easily denote them by saying this blue icon. It's just like having a shortcut on your computer desktop. Yeah, basically that's how it works. So yeah, this is the landing. This is where all your files are. If you want to perform a new upload, you could decide to upload from here your files, your folder. Then also you could decide to automate some processes in here. So you can create Power Automate here as well. Then when you go to the shared tab, so tab has two sections. It has the shared with you and it has the shared by you. So shared with you, basically, just like the name implies, it's for files that are shared with you by your internal users or by other users that uses OneDrive in other organizations. So that is called a business to business. So that's probably for another day. So there's Azure B2B sync. So when your organization has enabled this kind of connection, when other users from other company that uses Microsoft 365 as a solution as well, then you get to see such files in here once you've accessed them. Then if you go to the shared by you section, this is for files which you have shared out to people. So you can see them in here easily. So that's for the shared section. And also we have a favorite section. Now favorite section is just for any files which you've tagged as being favorite, you see them here. So basically where you do the tagging from is it could be from SharePoint. So this is a SharePoint site. We should be familiar with that by now. So if I decide that this Excel file, I use it on this site regularly, and I want to get to this Excel file faster next time, I can decide to favorite this file this way. That way, when I go to my OneDrive, yeah, we have it here just now. So rather than going to the SharePoint site, I can easily access this file from here. And yeah, it saves you a lot of time spent having to navigate here and there for you to do some things. Then yeah, we have the recycle bin. So recycle bin, it's it's a place for all your deleted files. So if any files has been deleted, you can come in here, you can restore them, you can delete them again. So basically, this is the first stage recycle. And if we had followed through the SharePoint training also, you would have talked about recycle bin. So the recycle process is this. When you delete a file and it goes into your first stage recycle bin, so it stays in here for 30 days. And after 30 days, if nothing happens, if you didn't restore the file, then it goes into the second stage recycle bin and stays there for 63 days. So altogether, that's a total of 93 days for you to restore any file that has been mistakenly deleted. Now, I always have a policy that any file not restored within the last 93 days, or you didn't even look for it within the last 93 days, it's, to me, you never needed that file, because if it's an important file, at one point or the other, there would have been a need for it within 93 days. That's 3 months. And if you don't have a need for it in 3 months, it's as good that those files are not important to you. So after the 93 days, those files get permanently deleted. So for the second stage recycle bin, if you just scroll down to the end of the recycle bin, I have quite a lot of files in here. You would see where it says second stage recycle bin. You can just click on it, and you check if there's anything there needed to be restored. So that's the recycle bin. Now, if it happens that a file was permanently deleted, so let me pick an example of a file. If I'm to delete this file, this is from the first stage, mind you. And if I scroll down, I see the second stage recycle bin. If you go in there, I would see the file in there as well. Just a moment, please. Uh, Okay, so I see the file in here. And if I decide to delete the file from the second stage recycle bin as well, then it means the file has been permanently deleted. So that's what I'm saying. If you permanently delete this, you won't be able to restore. Now, at this point, it has been permanently deleted. But if there's a need for you to restore this file, which has been deleted, then you can as well make a request to Microsoft. Between now, which is today being the 8th of July, and the next 14 days, if you do that, yeah, there are chances of you getting the file back. The entire site will be restored for you back to. I deleted this file 8th of July 4:38, so a restore can be done to maybe 8th of July 4 o'clock, and I still have a chance of getting that file back because it was an active file as at 4 o'clock. So that's one of the restore process. And also we would see a section for quick access. So quick access, all these are SharePoint shared libraries. So it's just, again, it's a means of you getting to those files or those locations you normally use. So quick access is based on, it's based on Microsoft Graph, and it's based on recently accessed files. So these are locations whereby I do make use of, I've made use of recently, pardon me. And you can decide to pin some specific libraries. So these are some libraries which I have pinned in here, just for me to have faster access to those locations. I can easily go to the document library. So you see in here it says go to site. So go to site is just means for you to go to the original location, which is the SharePoint location. But that's what quick access for. If you want to see more, probably there's a particular library, or there's a particular library should be here and you're not seeing there, you can just click on more places and look for it. If you don't find it, yeah, just go to SharePoint. You'll see it there. You make a search for it. So you can also create a shared library. Creating a shared library is just creating a SharePoint site. That's what it means for other people to access as well. So all these are SharePoint sites, everything in here. So moving on, you would see it says get OneDrive apps. Yeah, so you can use this as a means for you to download OneDrive app. It could be the mobile. It's there's also the desktop application apart from the OneDrive client. There's also OneDrive desktop application, just like it looks just like the mobile, or you could download the desktop sync client as well. That's what that is for. Then also you can return to the classic OneDrive. So this is like a more UI of OneDrive. This is not what Drive used to look like when we started this race. So it's used to look like something like this. Yeah. So this is the OneDrive classic view. It has like the same thing, the documents, your recent, shared with me, you following, recycle bin, and those groups as well. So yeah, same. It's just a different UI, but it's more like same thing, same stuffs that you say. So probably if something is not working for you on the modern UI, you could just double check with the classic UI and see if you have the same issues. Probably there could be an issue on Microsoft end. So that's yeah. So this is like the UI of what you see when you navigate to OneDrive. And if you look towards your right, you'd see the settings button. So you have the OneDrive settings. You can click on it. You can use this to control the kind of notifications you receive. Probably you miss somebody shared something to you, you've not checked your inbox. You want to, so there's a reminder, email notification when you probably deleted lots of files just to reconfirm if that was a mistake or it was intentional. Email notification when some people reply to your comment. We all know about the comments in Microsoft Word or Excel. So somebody replies to your comment, email notification when others comment on your document. Yeah, so depending on whichever one you want to turn off, every one of them is enabled by default. So if you feel you're getting too much notifications and you want to disable some, yeah, this is a place for you to come. Also, we have more settings. So access requests and invitations, you could review those who are requesting access to some of your files. Site collection admin, normally by default is just it should just be you. But in some organizations, we have some secondary admin delegation that's a user or an account in your organization also have access to your files. So that depends on organization. So for your guests sharing, guests which you share to, you can manage when those links should expire. Yeah, running a report is for you to see just a sharing report of all your files. Probably you want to know you have lots of files, you can go through them through the folder hierarchy. You just want to have a report and review those files which you believe should not be shared, or you want to, yeah, just having a report on how your sharing looks like. Excuse me, please. Your regional settings to set your region so that your time, your date and time shows in the correct format. Your language settings, okay, you don't want English, you want to use French. Yeah, you can use this. Your site collection features. This is OneDrive. You might not get to really use this like that. There's really nothing for you to do here unless you have some specific use cases and where we believe that that's the next kind of thing to do. You might really not get to use that at all. Your storage metrics, yeah, this is useful. This is for you to have an overview of how your storage looks like. So from here, we can see that the total storage for this user is 1 terabyte, and virtually nothing has been used. Yeah, so this is the storage metrics is useful for that. Return to the classic settings page, just like we have the classic OneDrive sites. So this is the modern settings page. You could also go to the classic settings page, and this gives you more options. But again, most of these options, the most important option has been filtered out for you here. You might not get to use any other of these options that you have in here. So now this is from a user perspective. This is what a user can control. This is my OneDrive. This is what I can see. This is what I can control. Now, from an administrator, someone who manages the admin portal for an organization, there are so many things you can do from your administrative end. We're not be able to go through everything, but one important one I'll go through is assigning the license. So this is a developer tenant. I believe most of us might have the same kind of tenant. So firstly, if you look at this user, excuse me, if you look at this user and you go under the licenses, so this user has been assigned the E5, the developer E5. So what controls the OneDrive for this user is the SharePoint Plan 2. So if you remember, I stated earlier that the SharePoint part of the SharePoint Plan 2 apps is the OneDrive Plan 2. So that is what gives this user the ability to use OneDrive. That's just it. And the moment a user is licensed for OneDrive and that user logs into office.com for the first time and clicks on the OneDrive app, that action would provision that user's OneDrive. That's how OneDrive sites would be created for that user. That's one. Another way would be as an administrator, if I'm managing a tenant of large users and probably you want to do some migration for them, you can do something called pre-provisioning of OneDrive. So what that means is rather than having the user to log in or the users to log in and go to the office.com, you can use a PowerShell command to pre-provision their OneDrive so that the OneDrive is ready even before the user makes the attempt of logging into their OneDrive site. So also it has the admin portal. Now OneDrive does not have it used to have a separate admin portal to SharePoint, but now everything is under the same umbrella. So if you still go back to the SharePoint admin portal and you go to the settings, so what you find here is that you will find settings that are for OneDrive. So it starts from here. So these settings here, whatever you do here have OneDrive activity. So before I come here, so also for the user, for each user, you can control some things on their OneDrive here. So these are the things that can be controlled. You can control the size. As an admin, you can access the OneDrive site. So as an admin, I can access this user OneDrive site by clicking on this. You can edit the storage. So even though OneDrive is given 1 TB by default, as an admin, I can decide, oh, okay, I only want to give this user 10 gig. Depends on what you want. Or again, since this is an enterprise subscription, you can increase it up to 5 terabytes. And by the time you have you have the ability to increase beyond 25 terabytes, you can also increase up to uh 25 TB. But at the moment, I can't do that because my organization cannot go beyond 5 TB for now. So you can play around with these from here as an admin. A user cannot do this. You can as well manage the external sharing settings. So if you don't want users to share their personal complaint files with external users, you can control all that from here as an admin as well. Then you can manage retention. So let me go back to the OneDrive settings there. So for the OneDrive settings, yeah, we've talked about the notification. So you can do this. This is like your organization wide. The one I showed before is per user basis. So you could disable notifications organization wide. Um, Retention. So basically, this is when a user is leaving your organization, we get to most organizations you delete their user account. Now, when you delete a user account, so this is a user account. If I decide to, okay, this user is leaving my organization and I'm deleting. So this is what happens. You give another user access to their OneDrive files. So the moment you do this, the OneDrive site is already marked for deletion, right? Because it stays there 30 days. So it means this user and whatever links to shared files that has been done by this user remains active for the next 30 days. After 30 days, it gets deleted. The OneDrive site gets deleted. But now this is where the 30 days is coming from. Is the default number of days to retain a deleted user's OneDrive. You can increase it. You can increase it as much as 3650. 3650. This is 10 years. So you can see that after a user OneDrive is deleted, I still want the OneDrive site to remain active for the next 10 years. And yeah, the OneDrive site will remain active even if the user has been deleted for long until the 10 years is over. So that's about the retention. This is where the storage limits you can. So for now, all my users are creating this tenant. They are going to have this 1 terabyte. But my subscription allows me to use up to 5 terabytes, so I can decide to save 5 terabytes here as well. And it takes effect on all my users as well. Um, Moving on quickly. So this is the saying. If you remembered, I stated that you can as well use the OneDrive sync client to sync down your files you have in your OneDrive to your system. So on my own system at the moment, I currently do that. So you'd see, let me just move it over here. Okay, so this is my file explorer. If I click on this one, so these are my files. If you look at them, you'd see that they are the same files I have on the web. So I can decide to work on my files from here rather than logging into the browser to access them. Now, all these might depend on what your organization wants to allow you to do. So if I don't want my users to sync their files, if I want to block the syncing, I only want them to sync on company joint devices. I don't want them to sync on their personal. So all these things are based on you as an administrator can decide to control what is user can do from their end. So many things that can be done from here. So yeah, that's the sync option. And I think, yeah, so that's that on that. So let's go back to the slide and try to round up on this. Okay. So now, what determines the kind of plan you choose for your setup? So your first thing is the organization requirements. What are the requirements for this organization? The OneDrive implementation that wants to be done. So you need to assess what your organization has on ground and what the requirements are. Now, if you are not an expert in deploying this solution, then you might want to consult with people that are knowledgeable in this area for better advice, right? So that you don't get to buy a OneDrive Plan One subscription and later you feel, oh, we actually need the E3 subscription because we want to implement some security measures, and your OneDrive Plan One doesn't allow you to do all that because it doesn't have the Microsoft view or features or something. So you might want to consult with experts or you utilize Microsoft partners as well. Then you might also want to consider your future growth and scalability of the business. Where do you see this business? What you can try to look at the future, and that would guide you in choosing the right plan for your organization. Yeah, money is also a factor as well because these subscriptions you pay per user every month. So you might want to look at the organization pulse as well. So all these put together would guide whoever is trying to implement the solution in the organization in choosing the right licensing option for the organization. In conclusion, just a summary of everything we've said so far. OneDrive for Business is a powerful cloud storage and collaboration platform for businesses and organizations. Yeah, it's the key features include storage, sync, collaboration, sharing, version control. It enhances productivity and streamline file management. Understanding your license options is crucial to select the right plan that aligns with your organization needs. Evaluate the future comparison. So you need to evaluate what license A gives you, what license B gives you. You need to evaluate them and consult with people that are knowledgeable in the field. So this enables you to choose the right plan so that you have that kind of flexibility. So if you eventually select the right plan for your organization, it enables your organization to maximize the benefits. So if your organization is not looking towards implementing security solutions, for example, and you go ahead and purchase the E5, you'll be paying a lot, right, on resources that you're not using. So you need to choose a kind of license that you would ensure that your organization is able to maximize the benefits, and it enhances the productivity and collaboration within your teams. So yeah, on that note, I think we've come to an end of this section.
Thank you
Emmanuel.
so much. Thank you so much for this session. Wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. Wow, people in the I wanted to see emojis. I appreciate our speaker today. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
our speaker today. All right, so this is time for question and answer. If you have any question for our speaker so far, you can feel free to raise your hand up. All right, Joseph, go for it, please. Oh, Joseph, you can go for it, yeah?
Mm,
Joseph, if you're talking, I can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was speaking on mute. I want to say, Oluwadamilola, thank you so much for the time you spent explaining all of this stuff. It's actually a very nice one. For me, I'll go back and look at the much you've done. I just have a scenario that I wanted to just advise based on best practice, just so
okay.
I can know what to do in this case, or maybe we can just learn generally from it. Let's say you were starting up a company and perhaps you did not see that it was going to blow up, like the growth was going to be massive in the future. And when you had a company, maybe in one location, you created a different tenant for that location, and then you had another one, you created a different tenant, and maybe at the end of the day, you have like 10 different tenants for the same company, and there is no central point where they are integrated. Now, these companies keep having their files on their individual OneDrive, for having files on their SharePoints, and some files were repeated and they have a lot of duplication. So they have issues with storage on OneDrive
Okay.
and SharePoint as well. Now, it comes to a point that you're trying to clean up the systems just so you can later integrate them into one. So you want to find out the files that are not necessary at a point, and then you want to find out some files that are still useful that you may want to migrate to the single tenants you want to create for all of these different locations. So what are those parameters? I'm just thinking, is it possible for you to set up a system that can maybe automatically delete OneDrive folder of all users by setting a parameter or something? So I just want to hear your opinion on how you would best handle this kind of situation. Get all files that are not needed from individuals OneDrive and SharePoint sites for different locations, but maybe based on some parameters.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for that. So basically, remember that OneDrive is personal site location. So for me, if I'm to attempt that, now I might not be able to identify those files because it's personal to those users. You may feel probably it's not needed for them, but these users might feel it's needed. So it might actually be, it might require more work from those end users in identifying those ones. And if you want to identify yourself, what I can use to identify myself would probably be the last time it was modified, probably just to find out the redundant files based on the last time it was modified. Now, in terms of having an automated process to probably delete those kind of files, you might want to explore Power Automate if that is can do that for you. That might be the only way to see probably files that have been modified in this. Or another option could be retention. So that this is where the security options comes in. So if you have a current license that does not give you the ability to use retention, then you might not be able to do this. So in retention, you could create a policy that deletes files. Now you create a policy, you might create a policy that deletes files based on the last time it was modified. So I can, if I know that those files are stale and they are no longer using them, I can create a policy that says delete any files. I choose OneDrive location and I say delete any files that has not been used within, that has not been modified within the last 2 years, last 3 years, and it kicks off and it deletes those files. So that can be done. It's a delete only, but again, it depends on what kind of licenses you have. Now, if you don't have the capability, if your license does not have the option for you to use a retention policy to delete stale files or duplicated files, then you might want to, I don't know if Automates would find those files for you, but you might want to explore in a situation whereby that's not an option. Then I would say it might require end user ability to actually check for those files they know they are not using, and before you consolidate all those tenants into one. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. Thank you very much. But there may just be a little follow-up on that.
Okay, go on.
If for so if you use retention policy to get rid of those files based on, say, the last date of modification of those files, are they going to get deleted both on the first and second stage recycle bin, or will they just remain in the second stage recycle bin for a while, for that same 63 days before they get deleted?
Okay, if you delete the file, so when you're creating the policy, I think there's an option that says delete only. So delete only, or and also an delete to recycle bin. I might not be able to give you a straightforward answer to about, depending on what options you have when creating the retention. I think there should be a delete permanently and delete into recycle bin. I'm not so sure at the moment. So depending on that, that would determine what action the delete would do, probably to the recycle bin or it permanently deletes them. But whichever way, once it's deleted, it's deleted. If you are migrating active files, deleted anything that has been deleted in the recycle bin will not be migrated for you. So at the end of the day, by the time you shut down the tenants or anything, everything gets deleted.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
All right, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph. Oluwaseun, I saw your hand up before. Do you still have question?
No, not at all. It was a mistake.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank
All
you so
right.
much. Guys, do you have any other question? Do you have any other person we have question? All right. So, Namala, I think I have a couple of questions for you
Yeah,
during
go
the
on.
session.
Go on.
All right. So, the first one is when we talk about the recycle bin, talking about the deletion process. Let's say I have a lot of files that are deleted by mistake in the
Okay.
recycle bin. Is it possible to restore everything, or how to be selecting each of them one after the other to
Order.
restore?
Okay, so that's a challenge that we do face, but I will show you. So if I go to my recycle bin now,
You can share your
and
screen. Let me stop sharing. Yeah.
okay, let me okay, okay, sorry. Okay, so if you go to the recycle bin, it's two things. If what you want to restore is every file in the recycle bin, then that's fine. You would see an option that says okay, you would able to see. Now, if you want to restore every file in the recycle bin, now when you do this selection, it only selects like 102, and I believe that's the like the first 102 it can see. Now, if you have more files, you might need to scroll. Then you can see it increases by 100. That's another one. Now, this is if you want to restore like 45,000 files. This is a long process for you to do, so you might not be able to go through this step. Now, the other step would be for you to implement a PowerShell. Now there are PMP PowerShell that allows you to restore files probably based on the date of deletion. So you can specify a specific date, or probably based on a particular user that deleted those files. So those are the kind of options you get even from Microsoft, and Microsoft will not restore for you as long as those files are in the recycle bin, because Microsoft will only restore for you in the case of total loss. Now, if you don't want to use PowerShell as well, you can also use, I think I did mention something. You can use this option, restore your OneDrive. Now, this restore your OneDrive option, what it does is it restores those files for you as long as it's still in the recycle bin. If files are not in the recycle bin, don't bother using this. Nothing is going to get restored. So if the files are in the recycle bin, the only challenge with this is if you have a lot of files deleted, like 45K files, like I said, then you would have serious problems selecting a restore point by scrolling through this because it's going to take a very long time. I worked with a client of recent trying to restore 75, no, 200K files from the recycle bin. And we couldn't do this because if I want to do this, I need to select a particular restore point. So it's easy for me because I have lesser files here. I can easily select this and restore back to this. Or if it's a lot of files, it's going to be a challenge trying to scroll and pick a particular restore point. So yeah, but if it's lesser, yeah, you can use this. So it's either you use restore, this option, if it works, or you make use of a PowerShell command. Yeah, there are simple commands. It's not very difficult. There are simple commands that you would see. Yeah, one more thing, not about your question, Emmanuel. One more thing. Many of us might notice, okay, how do you get to sync your OneDrive files to your computer this way? You might notice you don't have the sync option here anymore. It has been moved. It's no longer available here. So where you get to see the sync button is when you click on your settings, you see this option, sync this OneDrive. So when I click on it, this is when it syncs to my file explorer so I can access it. Yeah, you must have installed the OneDrive sync client, but if you don't have it installed, you can easily click on this link and it downloads the app to your system for you to sync those files. Yeah, Emmanuel,
Thank you.
I believe that's
Thank you.
answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, before I go to my next question, in the Q&A, there are some questions there. So somebody asked that you mentioned GDPR compliance. So please
Yeah.
explain.
Okay, so basically there are a lot of compliance policies. There is EPA compliant, there is FINTRA. So these are just general data regulation policies that organizations handling some specific kind of data are expected to comply with based by US government or the UK government. So these are policies that you're expected to comply with when you're dealing with sensitive data, such as, so if an organization that if a medical organization is using OneDrive, for example, it's expected you'll be storing medical records of people, right? So you wouldn't want medical records of people to fall into the wrong hands. So you need to ensure that whatever cloud solution you're using is compliant with all these policies. And Microsoft has already stated that, hey, the Microsoft Cloud Platform is compliant with all the regulatory bodies. However, it doesn't, these platforms are not compliant automatically. You have resources within the Microsoft 365 environment to make this platform compliant. So it's like um, an organization option for you to set them up to make your OneDrive files, your SharePoint files, your team files, your Outlook compliant. So if you don't set them up, then you're at risk of these policies of, and probably your employees or the user data that you use could sue you for that or something.
I hope that answered the question to the person that asked the question. So the second question from the Q&A says that how do I restrict downloads on an enterprise plan with a shared file?
Okay, yeah, nice one. So yeah, you can restrict download based on, you could decide to use a policy. So let me see if I can show us one policy. So you can use this access control policy to restrict download. So this is a very popular one on managed device. So what this means is, if I set this, so it means if you are accessing your OneDrive on a device that is not managed by the company, if it's your personal device, yeah, you will be able to access on the web, but you cannot download any file from those resources to your computer. Or you could decide to entirely block access. So if those users are not using organization's computer, then there's no way for them to access OneDrive on the web or anywhere at all. So yeah, you can use an access control policy, you can decide to use a conditional access as well to block download to personal devices.
Thank you very much for that. I believe that answers the question. Okay, you mentioned a shared library from the
Yeah.
user's perspective. So is it
Yeah.
possible to actually turn that shared library off for all users in the organization that it should, because you from your explanation, the shared library is used to create the SharePoint site. So I don't want users to be able to create SharePoint site because I know that more storage will be taken from the organization storage.
Your
So is it
store.
possible to turn off the shared library for all users?
You mean turn off the creation of shared library or turn off
Yes.
the okay. So for the creation of shared library, let's have a look. So basically what allows users to create sites or anything they create is under this guy, which is site creation. So you can, this is the option here. So you can uncheck this and it takes off that option for users. So it's also stated there, show the options to create sites in SharePoint and create shared library from OneDrive. So you can untoggle these and it takes off the ability for users to create sites from their end.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yomi has a question. Yomi, please, you can go for it.
Yeah, thank you. My question goes, I'd like to ask if you are working in an organization, we all know that the OneDrive automatically it has to have its default setting. So I just want you to advise that if before one can go ahead making use of the OneDrive, is it advisable for me to set my company, to set it to my company setup, before I proceed? Or what? Please just enlighten me on that. Thank you.
I'm not so sure I got that question correctly. Can you,
Yomi, can you reframe
or
the question?
anybody that got the
Okay.
question that can help?
Okay. What I'm trying to say is we all know that OneDrive, there's a policy, I mean, there's a default setting from Microsoft itself.
Mhm.
Okay. So before I proceed, like I purchase like an enterprise now. So before I proceed with my company, I'm asking that should I set my own OneDrive to my company setup, the policies, everything before,
Before you deploy it to a
assigning
wider range.
as exactly.
Okay, so for me, I believe that when deploying any solution, it's always best to have pilot users, right? So that you can get first-hand feedback on the experience of those pilot users before deploying to a wider range of people. So yeah, the default settings that comes with OneDrive are just basically there's really nothing different probably rather than the storage 1 TB depending on your subscription, the sharing ability probably block external sharing or allow external sharing, ability to sync to personal devices. Yeah, those are the things. But all the what would control which of these settings you want to use is based on your organization requirements. So your requirements is what would determine the advice you get. But if there's no requirements, you just want to see OneDrive, you just want to see how it works, yeah, you can just go ahead and sign up for, yeah, you can use it personally yourself to determine how you, because most users might be new to it and they'll be looking for advice probably. So you might be after using it personally, then you'll be in a better position to guide those users on how to, when they have concerns on how to do something. That's what I would say.
Yomi, does that answer your question?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that question.
Yes.
All right, Olu,
And
lastly,
please don't,
okay.
after the meeting, please don't forget my first, question to you once we end the meeting. Thank you. I'm just trying to remind you.
All right, I actually drop a link to our WhatsApp group in the chat. Go to the chat, you can join the group from there.
Okay. All right.
All right. All right, Olu, the
Yeah.
last one for me is actually a two-in-one question. Now, you mentioned that when the users is leaving my organization, I can actually, back up their OneDrive by assigning the OneDrive to another user. So
Yeah.
if I remove the license, the subscription that was assigned to the user, the files remains in the OneDrive storage for the new user. Is that correct?
No, it doesn't. So basically, I mentioned, okay, I might need to share my screen again. Sorry, guys. So I mentioned that OneDrive is per user basis. So you have your UPN, you have your email address, your username. I have mine. My OneDrive are based on those of your username, right? So now if so can you see my screen, please?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this part, this is the login or the username for this guy when he wants to log in the UPN, right? So if this guy is leaving the organization and the OneDrive has been assigned to another user, these links remains the same, right? It doesn't mean that uh, user B will now logs into his OneDrive and he gets to see all these files. No, he won't. But what happens is that if user B is given this link, he will be able to access this link as if he is the owner of all these files. So not that the files moves to your own OneDrive, they remain here, but the only thing is that you have access to this link to review anything. It's more like you having a secondary access to this guy's OneDrive. And at the end of the retention period, it gets deleted. However, you can move the files if you want to, probably because it's like you have your own OneDrive and you have another link to access someone else's OneDrive. So for easy access, you can decide to do a move to or a copy to your own location, so it's easy for you to access. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, I think it answers because I was actually thinking it from the Exchange Online perspective that I don't want to
Okay.
pay Microsoft again, but I still want to keep the mailbox. So I convert the mailbox to
Oh,
a shared mailbox,
you
right?
shared
So
mailbox.
so
Okay.
I still have the mailbox when I give I have access inside the mailbox once I give myself a full access to the mailbox and I don't need to pay. But for this,
Pay
so the workaround here is to actually have a retention policy. So after
policy.
that
Yeah,
retention period,
you
the
might need to
data
move
will
it.
be deleted. Okay,
You'll be
all right.
deleted. So you might need to move it to keep it alive.
So if the user happens to return back before the end of the retention period, is it possible I can map the OneDrive back to the user?
Okay, so if the user returns, in all cases, the user would have a new OneDrive provision for them for them. That's when we always have. So there's going to be another OneDrive, and it's going to have the number one at the back of it. So that's what will happen. So if this user comes back, the user will have this link and there's still this old link. So at that point, now there is a self-diagnostic that you can use to map the user back to the old one and the user regain access back to the old one. It's very, you just need to do it if you go to your admin portal, you just click on the need help and can just type in OneDrive mismatch there. It should come up. Let me see. Yeah. So this should okay, fixed sites. Yeah, so something like this. So from this document, you should have the link here, site user ID mismatch. So this should open the self-diagnostic and you can be able to use this to remap the user. So what that does is it deletes the site that has the one. Oh, sorry guys. So it deletes the site that has the one, which is the new one, and it connects the user's profile back to the old one. And that's it. Hey Mano, are you still there?
Hello.
Hello, Emmanuel. Yeah, hello. This
Yeah, Olajumoke speaking.
okay,
We
ma.
had a yeah. Thanks, Damla. Okay, Hulu for short. They said. So I wanted to first say thanks. Very nice session. I really
Thank you,
enjoyed.
ma.
So I just want to also buttress on, I mean, or even, I mean, not buttress, probably maybe just also clarify on what Emmanuel has around
Okay.
the when someone leaves the organization. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
I'm in two meetings. Just so that let me.
No problem.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm in two different meetings. So, all right. So, let me rephrase the question again. So, the question
Okay.
of saying that when someone leaves your environment, and then
Yes.
just like you convert their mail burst to shared mail burst, I think I mixed that part. When
Okay.
can we do the same for OneDrive for business? Because I know sometimes when you are in at the admin center and probably maybe you want to remove the person's license, it actually
Yeah.
gives you that process where you can assign the OneDrive for business of that person. Maybe you want to remove their license to someone else in the
Someone
organization.
else.
Yeah, so and then if you want to view that um, OneDrive for business of that fellow when he leaves the organization, you can actually go to I think to more features, and then you can see manage user profile where you can be able to manage the OneDrive for that fellow. I know that's what is possible. So I don't know whether I just wanted to buttress on what you said, and then if that answers Emmanuel's question to it. So it's with Microsoft today, I think you have that feature when someone, if you want to remove someone's license, even from there from the admin center, it will tell you you can choose someone else in the organization that can manage the person OneDrive for
All
business,
right. Yeah.
and then you can see it afterwards. Yeah, I just want to say that.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you. Thank you
I
very
think
much.
MJ, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just to say one more thing about that process. So the default process when you delete a user is for the OneDrive of that user to be assigned to that user's manager. So that's access delegation process. Like that's like the default. So if you don't want to, when you're deleting that user, if you don't want to assign someone else, if you don't want to give it to someone else, then by default, as long as that user has a manager under the profile, then by default, the access delegation goes to that user's manager. And also you can have an account as access delegation, whereby in a situation whereby the user does not have a manager, then it goes to that specific account which you've delegated for that specific purpose of deleted accounts. Just to add as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Olu, for your time.
Thank
Um,
you.
I don't know if you have any other questions. In the absence of no other questions, we'll be wrapping up today's session. By next week, we'll have our interactive session again. So if you try the OneDrive out, everything been taught today, if you have questions, you can come forth to the interactive session. And Olu will also be showing us more things about OneDrive if all things be equal by next week. So thank you everyone for joining today's same show. I look forward to seeing you next week, same time. Thank you.
All
Have a
right.
good
Thank
one.
you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Bye.
you guys. Thank you,
Thank
Lu.
you.
Thanks
Thank
everyone.
you.
Enjoy
Thank you
your
so much.
weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And you too.
Thank you, Ayoluwa, Chioma, Feliz, Johnson, Joseph, Kingsley, Olajide,
You're welcome.
Olawale, Oluwagmiga, Oluwaseun, Yomi.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Bye.
And bye to our energetic Solomon.